like to introduce Suzanne Kantra. For the past 20 plus years, Suzanne has been exploring and writing about the world's most exciting and important science and technology issues. 10 years ago, she founded Techlicious, which serves the role of that tech-savvy friend you can count on to share tips and tricks to get the most out of technology. Before that, Suzanne was the technology editor for Martha Stewart Living Omnimedia, which is where we met. And she hosted the radio show Living with Technology. Previously, Suzanne served as technology editor for Popular Science magazine, and she's been featured on CNN, CBS, and NBC. Suzanne lives in New York City with her husband and 3 children. Welcome, Suzanne.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's so nice to see you again. We used to interact back in the Martha days. You'd come share about your career on making a living with Maggie, and you'd have your own show, Living with Technology. So it's nice to reconnect.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, we have a lot of questions for you today, so I appreciate you bringing your brain and all your information because there's a lot going on with technology and it affects our careers. So let's jump in. And actually, one that is, I think, always on people's minds is this whole work-life balance kind of thing. And I'm actually going to be speaking about it at an upcoming conference for career folks, but everybody has challenges. I know you've written about how technology can help us save time, especially in our hectic schedules. So can you share some thoughts and findings around tech that can help us with that aspect of our work and life?
Sure. So I look at technology as a helper. It should enable you to be able to do more of what you love and just take care of those tasks that you're not so excited about completing. So one of my favorite things to do is to use shopping services. I've used Fresh Direct, I've used Instacart. Just recently, Amazon launched its shopping service with their Whole Food stores. So for $10 a month, you can have unlimited deliveries. And so
Interesting.
being able to count on somebody to be able to deliver the food for your dinner or just plan out for the week and make sure that you have a delivery every week, that takes care of a whole shopping block that you would be able that you can get that time back.
Great point. It's living in New York, we used to use Fresh Direct all the time. Now that I'm not in the city full time, haven't quite used the shopping services as much, but it's a good reminder. Definitely use Amazon still, though. So I
Yes.
don't know how we ever live without that. Definitely helpful. Another area
Also,
that, oh, sorry, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, oftentimes I'm thinking about meal planning when it's post the time that you can actually go into the stores and buy food. So being able
Mm,
to at night say, oh, what am I going to want to eat tomorrow? Or what, meals am I going to plan for my family tomorrow? Being able to put in that quick order and knowing that the food's just going to arrive and be there and be fresh is a huge bonus.
yeah, you're right. It's a good to use the technology to help, and really, and you do see the orders in stores now when you walk in. You can kind of see the lining up for either pickup or delivery. Any other tips for work-life balance that you found? Any good technology?
So I use AI a lot for planning things. So I
Hmm.
can ask AI for suggestions. We're going to be going to Chicago tomorrow, and so I can ask, what types of special events are happening over the weekend. I can help it plan out an itinerary in terms of, what other activities are around. The things that I know that I want to go to. For instance, we're going to go to the aquarium. So, what restaurants that are around there?
Hmm.
What other little live showcases or events might we want to be able to explore? And so being able to use AI for those types of things has been a big difference in terms of getting those last minute details because you can use the browse with Bing technology to be able to take in the most recent data. So oftentimes when you get the travel guides, they may not have the most recent and up-to-date information. So that's a nice bonus as well.
Is it that
And
much
then
different than typing it in? Like if you were to type in the search engine, things to do or restaurants around the aquarium, would you get the same results? I mean, or is it that much
so
different with AI?
So the difference is that it's a conversation. And so you hear a
Mm,
lot people talking a lot about prompts, and that seems a little vague, I think, to a lot of people. But prompts are just conversations. So yes, if I typed in, what restaurants are around the aquarium in Chicago, then you would get back a list. But then you can further delve into that and ask follow-up questions. Well, I want something with sushi, or I want something that's going to be able to accommodate large groups, or maybe both of those things. Maybe I want something that's within walking distance. Maybe something that's going to have gluten-free items, right? So yes, you could go and you could search and get all of those results and go down the rabbit hole. However, this is more of a conversation. So you're having with a friend in some senses. Also, with AI, you can put together sort of a profile and say, hey, this is my age. These are the kinds of things I like. And based on who I am, make those recommendations versus, going to a source that would be gearing the recommendations to more of a general public audience.
Interesting. Okay, for sure. And I know I cut you off. Were there other things?
The last thing is writing notes. I get stuck on writing thank you notes, writing sympathy cards, writing notes that I have the feelings, but I don't necessarily have the words to be able to express them as eloquently as I would like in writing. And so this has been a way just to sort of get over that writer's block of being able to get my words out and then craft them and make it sound like me, but have somebody give me some of those extra words that I might not have at the tip of my fingers.
I did notice that. I'm a subscriber to BlueMountain.com, which is a card service. You send a lot of e-cards to family, and I use the AI feature to write and asked a few questions. It did the prompts, like, so tell me about the person, a couple things. And then it wrote interesting comment like that. And actually a lot of them we use. I'm like, well, that's interesting way to put it or whatever. And I think that's what I found so far with AI most helpful is in the rewrite of something. I'm a little more factual, formal. This puts it in a little more conversational, more accessible, more like in a card, obviously greeting card, more personal. And that's nice too. Interesting. Okay, good. Lots of good tips. So I have more areas to ask you about. Another area I know you've covered is discovering new ways to enjoy our personal interests, which, I like to help people soul search. It's a lot about their personal interests. So what tools have you seen in this area when it comes to technology?
So I like Reddit. And there's been a lot written about Reddit. Reddit is a group of communities. And so each community is a subreddit. There is a community for just about anything. The good subreddits are moderated, and you can see how many people are actively online. They discuss topics in depth. So for instance, my husband is into knives. He likes chef knives. He likes to cook. And so his subreddit is True Chef Knives. And they talk about different styles of knives, how to sharpen knives, stories about people who don't know knives using their knives and how they have to resharpen them. Anyway, you can go down the rabbit hole, but in a good way. And so you're finding like-minded people to give you suggestions, recommendations, answer your questions. Of course, these are people, and so you have to sort of take the good with the bad, but it's a great way to be able to find your community, your people, and be able to just enjoy those topics and passions that you have.
Very interesting. I like that idea, especially when it comes to spending time on your personal interests. Sometimes you can't find the people locally where you are, and it's nice to have technology because it kind of expands your world. I guess people could be from anywhere.
They can be from anywhere. Absolutely.
Yeah, very interesting.
Different viewpoints, right? Something you might not have thought about. Sometimes we get into our little bubbles. And when you have these internet-based communities, you have people from all walks of life, all places in the world. And then you can, expand the way that you think about whatever your passion topic is.
Yeah, for sure. I love that idea. You're getting me thinking. Like, oh, I wonder what my Reddit would be. Very good. Anything else on that area?
That's really my go-to in terms of being able to find, new information. I mean, obviously you can search the web. There's probably an app for just about any passion that you have. There are podcasts that you can listen to, obviously. So those I think that probably people are more familiar with, but I think the Reddit isn't necessarily something that a lot of people are engaging in right now or think about necessarily for their passion projects.
Yeah, I like that idea. Have you seen technology that also helps people with research? So, is after they identify their passions, maybe they want to explore careers in that area, or even job search into them. Have you seen technology help in those two as well?
So I'm going to go back to AI again and talk about how um, it can help fine tune your research. So the way that AI works is that you need to be able to give it good information to be able to get good information out, and then know that this is a two-way street, right? So it's going to come back and it's going to give you some information, and then you can refine it and say, I don't like this piece of information you gave me. What, give me more like these other pieces of information. So if you're looking for a job and you want your job to involve writing, maybe we'll give you, to be a technology writer or to work in public relations or to be in a communications job. And then you can say, well, I don't really want to be writing promotional uh, stuff. So, what would you recommend where I'm not going to have to be promoting somebody's product or somebody's service? And so you could start going down those roads and say, okay, well, what other areas could I explore writing as a career choice? And knowing that you can always ask for more information. The nice thing about AI is it never gets tired, it never gets angry or upset or annoyed. You're not wasting its time.
Right, right.
And so you can really sort of bounce ideas off and go in multiple different directions. And the more that you give it about who you are, what your expectations are, you can be truthful and say, hey, I want to be able to work from home in my pajamas, right? That's AI is not going to judge you for that. And put what is your dream job? How would you envision that and see how that plays out with your different skills? I've played around with uploading a resume and saying, what jobs would I be good for? What kinds of jobs should I be thinking about applying to?
How were the
And sort of
responses on
take
that one? Were they good? Were they
it
quality?
was it was what I expected. I got a lot of responses for different types of writing positions, public relations, communication roles, the things that I would expect. But it also things like product evangelists. So I enjoy talking to people about how technology can make their lives better. So what could I do based on my background where I could go out and help people and talk to people and interact with people? And so it sort of frees your mind a little bit to think about things that are sort of outside of the box in which we all put ourselves.
That is so interesting. Yeah, and you mentioned AI too when it comes to resume, like in terms of what jobs. They've also have tools obviously that can write your resume now for you,
Hmm.
right? AI tools. There's so
Yes.
many. Um, yeah, what I recently saw were some recruiters who were complaining that they could tell it a mile away, actually, and it bothered them. So I'm curious. I mean, obviously, I think it's like anything where if you're trying to placate the system and like have all the answers to the test, it obviously looks like you're cheating. You know what I'm saying? So it sounds like you just still need to personalize it. But what are your thoughts there in terms of using the tool, but having it still be you and custom and still have your voice in there?
So as you said it, it's a tool. It should not take the place of you and your work and your insights. It should not take away your voice. And so you could, how I like to work with it is to give it the information that I want to have and then have it come back and then have it be a conversation about it. Um, Realistically, for a resume, you're gonna write most of it. So maybe it's better off using that as a proofreader, right? You don't want to have any mistakes in your resume. Or you create your resume and say, hey, this is my resume. How can I tweak it? How can I make it specific for a job that I'm applying for? Let's say that I'm looking at a writing job at a technology outlet. So I'm a writer and I've written for a bunch of different publications. How can I make my experience relevant to this job that I'm applying for? And so then it can ask you questions and say, well, have you considered highlighting technology publications that you've written for, or whatever the use case is for you, being able to have it come back and recommend what are the things that I can tease out from my experience and highlight in my resume for this specific job? So it's not really writing your resume for you. It's making you think about your resume and changing it slightly to make you a better candidate for whatever position it is.
So it's like
Um,
walking you through the thought process,
it's
right?
walking you through the thought process. And one of the prompts that I love to use is, what questions do you have for me? How can I make this better? What information do you need from me to make what I have better? And so then you get those questions back and you can think about them and say, oh, what have I done that I could put in this resume for this specific job that would make a lot of sense for me to put in the resume so that people see it, before they even get to the interview phase. And I think that that would be really helpful for a lot of people, especially if they're looking at different industries, maybe slightly different job titles, and then you have a bespoke resume for each and every situation. And it's not, I turn this out and just had AI write it. It's saying AI is helping me fine tune what I already have.
Right. It's a good idea. And when you say you're using AI, are you using, you mentioned the Bing tool? Are there other, like, does it matter which one you use? Have you found some tools to be better than others? Where do you go when when you want to use AI?
So I use AI, different AI tools for different things. So I've used Microsoft Copilot. We publish some of our stories from Techlicious on MSN Start. And so, for instance, I will feed in my story into Copilot and say, what hashtags do you recommend that will make it more visible on MSN Start? And then Copilot will say, oh, I recommend these 10 hashtags. I find that Claude is good AI for having more of a conversation. It being able to ask you intelligent questions so that you can give it better source material and create a better product.
So is that
Gemini,
CLAUDE, like you would think, talking to your
yes,
friend Claude?
Claude,
That's great.
Claude.ai.
Okay.
So I like it for that. ChatGPT is fantastic for background research. I can say, tell me about this topic. And then you need to make sure for all of these different platforms, don't make up information, provide citations, check the citations that they send you. I had a situation where I was doing some research on Gemini and it came up with a fact, and I asked for the citation, clicked through to the citation, and it didn't exist. It was wholly fabricated. And so you see those little warnings
That was
down
going to be my next
below.
question. Yeah, right. You know if what you're getting is any good, but you have to be discerning, I guess.
Right. So you're ultimately responsible for the output. You need to take a step back and say, does this reflect me? Does this reflect the way that I want to present myself? Does it sound like me that I wrote this, that this is something that I created? Uh, have I had the oversight that's necessary? So see it as a tool to be able to help you create better results, whether it's writing an email, a condolence letter, a resume. Uh, it's a tool to help you do better, not to replace you.
Got it. Yeah. Request for an informational interview, where to find people that I can informational interview. Yeah, or online resources. Very helpful. Let's see. Anything? Oh, so AI, as we've been talking about, obviously is one of the biggest technology trends affecting many things. And it helps to gain skills in this area, right? So, what do you recommend for folks to do that? Is there a technology to help us learn technology?
So it can be really daunting when you first open up ChatGPT or Gemini and it's just saying, so what do you want to talk about? It's like looking at that blank page when you're a writer. It's sort of like, okay, what do I do now? So there are companies that are coming up with training courses. Google has actually come up with a training course. It's called Google AI Essentials. It's a 6-module course. It's $49, and it will teach you, go through, how to create prompts, how to integrate AI into your workflow. This is an asynchronous course, so you're going to take it on your own
Your own
time.
time.
And you get a skill badge if you're somebody who's familiar with Google's different training programs. You can get the skill badge saying that you've gone through their training program for AI, and cite that as a skill. You could even put it on your resume. So, especially for somebody who might be just starting out and may not have a lot on their resume, having these types of skill courses is helpful. Uh, I'll just mention two other resources. There's a company called Media Copilot. They focus mostly on people who are in marketing and in writing careers, and they have courses that they've developed to help you understand how to use AI better, because you can see it. You were saying that some of the recruiters were saying that they could tell, oh, this resume was definitely generated with AI. You can tell with writing as well. I was reading a website the other day, and I was like, oh, that is so AI when I was reading this description on
It kind of
there.
like cringeworthy. Ooh.
Right. And you do
Yeah.
not want that for
Hmm.
sure. And then the other resource that I would mention is Shelley Palmer. Shelley Palmer has been in the industry for a long time. He definitely has his finger on the pulse of what's going on. And he creates bespoke workshops. And it could just be for a senior level executive wanting to understand better how to integrate AI into their corporate structure, anything from manufacturing to using it for communications. And he also creates workshops for teams and for companies. So those are three resources off the top of my head, but people are really jumping in there and starting to create these resources because people have been using these tools. Whether you're somebody who's into graphic design and artwork, or creating other ways to use AI, somebody is in there doing the research, and we'll have some tools and resources for you.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, I remember even just a few months ago, or I'd say maybe a year ago, when I was looking up AI in careers, you'd find maybe a couple of things recommended here and there. The next time I went in, it was like, here's 15 tools.
Right.
So it's
The best
really
tools for
proliferated. Yeah, exactly. Here, check
yeah.
out these 10 for your bet. And I was like, wow, that's different than just one. Which, of course, things are going to grow and expand. So I do think it's good to, again, do your research on what might be most appropriate and maybe use a few. And then you can see the differences in the results, depending on how that works. Any other interesting technology trends that you see on the horizon, Suzanne, affecting people's careers maybe, or professionally, or even in general that maybe we should know about?
So I'm going to just mention two other job searching career tools that people may or may not be familiar with. One is Glassdoor. I think that they do a really great job in terms of tapping into corporate culture, salary comparisons, and give you a sort of more of a sense of the company behind the job. So I
They're
would
starting to
recommend
do
that for,
top companies to work for lists too. I just saw
yes.
that. I was really, I'm like, that's an interesting way, use of all that data is to really see it from the inside out. So that's cool. Great, great idea. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Um, and then the other thing is more geared to recent graduates or people who are even in college looking for summer jobs and internship opportunities is a platform called Handshake. I've used that myself in terms of finding, new writers, people who want to, do freelance contributions. And you as an employer can select colleges and universities that you want to work with. And so the person on the other side of that job has said, I want to work with the university that you're going to, or the university that you just graduated from. And there are all sorts of opportunities, everything from, part-time jobs, contract work, full-time opportunities, summer internships, and a lot of large companies and smaller companies make use of these platforms.
Yes, I do know that my university, Villanova, uses Handshake. Can alums use it too? Have you seen that? Or is it mainly for active students?
I would have to look into it.
Yeah,
I
me too. I
feel like
haven't done that. Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like it's more gauged to people who have just graduated, but it can also be for people who've just graduated from a program. So
Yeah,
one
even
of
graduate
the
or different level, right?
yeah, if you
Hmm.
went back and you got a master's degree, or you went through a training program and
Certificate,
were
maybe.
enrolled.
Hmm.
Yeah, exactly. So, if you're looking at a second career, or you got additional education and got some kind of certificate, you might be able to use those platforms as well.
Yeah, very helpful. Wow. Well, Suzanne, thank you so much for sharing such great insight. I knew we were going to get good stuff today. So thank you. I
Well,
know
thank
that
you for
about
having
you.
me.
Oh, my pleasure. So find out more. The best place is go to techlicious.com, which I'll put a link in the show notes.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, you're really that trusted friend we can go to for tech advice. Thanks so much, Suzanne.
Thanks for having me.